And welcome back to another episode of Head to Head.
First edition of Off the Bench.
Back to In the Trenches to Hurricane Hang Time.
And as always, I'm your host, Shay McDowell. Today I'm joined. Look at Jameis Winston, first game! He throws for 300 yards. Deshaun Watson never threw for 300 yards. Play defense.
Okay, you can't tell me that the Devils' young roster is going to outskate, outperform Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl.
If we want to talk about superstars, can we bring back my graphic real quick? In the words of that one SNL sketch, let's do that hockey. Take a look at my pick right here, Drake May. This is the type of guy, I get it, he's not playing right now. Look at my blue and red. This is a little bit of a homer pick. But if you take a look, he has elite traits, elite arm, very high athleticism, very, very, very smart, quick learner. If you've heard over the offseason, the biggest concern was about his footwork. Has already fixed a lot of those mechanic issues in terms of timing and speed and sticking up the footwork. For the grand finale, let's take it. Drake May, all aboard the Mayflower, baby. Him and Dan Marino, him and Michael Vick. He's 210 yards per game, 10 TDs, 67% completion percentage, and he's elevated everyone around him. I mean, like I said, him and Dan Marino, only two people to throw for 500 yards and 5 TDs in the first two games. He's averaging 9.7 yards per carry. Guess what Mike Vick had the highest for a quarterback ever? 8.3.
He has around him as well, Pop Douglas, to name one, Kendrick Bourne. These are not necessarily NFL receivers that are the best of quality.
Watch on the Pop Douglas slander.
You're telling me you're going to deny that?
Slander.
With the Justin Jeffersons in the league.
No.
They're not on that level at all.
Agreed.
They are not on that level at all.
But we don't tolerate Pop Douglas slander around here. Pop Douglas, electrifying player when he's on the field. Drum roll, please. Yep, Bill Belichick.
Oh,
it was bye Eagles bye for Nick Sirianni. What does this guy do, though? He fixes that defense that's been awful for the last year. Do your job, new mentality, and most importantly, peace and quiet. A lot of people hate the way Sirianni acts. Bill, he won't even talk. So guess what? That fixes that issue entirely. Well, it did look a little bit like a trap game, but the dynamic duo of Xavier Restrepo and Cam Ward got cooking, namely Restrepo with a massive day, 146 yards, 3 touchdowns, 8 receptions, breaking tackles over the middle of the field. He had a phenomenal day, and he made a bunch of big plays like this, where a contested catch in the red zone, in the end zone, and none other than this play for the record books. And now he's boosting Miami up top the college football rankings, 3rd in the first official college football playoff bracket, and it could be massive as they go into this week against Georgia Tech. Yeah, they also had a really good win this week, and that was against Binghamton, 88-64. And I just want to highlight the starters. They shot 8 of 20 from 3. That turns out to 40%. And Jalen Blackman and Nigel Pack scored 17. One big concern I have for this team is the defense. They only outscored Binghamton by 3 points, 42-39, and that was a lot due to their defense on Gavin Walsh, the forward from Binghamton. Walsh brought in 21 points, grabbed 10 rebounds, and in the ACC, when you're going to have to deal with teams who have like Cooper Flagg and Con Knuppel with Duke, that could be a big issue of struggles. Additionally, they're still trying to round this rotation. Matthew Cleveland is trying to get him back into shape, and Jim Larrañaga thinks he could be a lot better for this team. But a little bright spot to end it off, Jaleel Bethea off the bench. 13 points, a few assists, a couple of steals. He could be bright for Miami's future. Well, I might not have clues, I might not have keys, but I have Shay's takeaways. And first one, swarm the ball, and that's especially true if this guy is healthy. Haynes King, look at the Georgia Tech offense with and without him. As you can see, all the numbers down to the past 2 games. If he's healthy, he could be a massive problem for Miami, especially on the ground. Now, second thing, you gotta create chaos in the hive, and I'm talking about turnovers right there. Look, Miami struggles in the turnover game, but last week 3 interceptions, 4 turnovers overall. If the secondary can capitalize on more mistakes from Georgia Tech, it could be massive for Miami. Now, lastly, you gotta not force the sting. We know Cam Ward, he specializes in the spectacular, but can get him in trouble. Look at this right here, rolling outside, looking back over the middle. It looks exactly like his pick 6 against Virginia Tech. And if he can keep those plays to a minimum, it would be massive for Miami to have a nice, calm week in Georgia Tech. Welcome back to another episode of Off the Bench. Today we're about to get in the mud and some rugby. Today we're here with the Miami Motion Dance team. It's raining a little bit, but we brave the elements for what should be a pretty interesting episode. Without further ado, let's get ready. Before anything started, the coach gave me one piece of advice to stick to. What?
Enthusiasm. Okay.
So after having that wisdom bestowed upon me, we got into the drills, practiced some of the basics, and aside from one little thing, I was pretty decent.
I didn't mess with the drill. I'm more gassed than I thought I would be.
See, and I even got a tackle here and there, though, as you can also see, sometimes was not the best idea.
With my lockdown defense already on display, there was one more thing I needed to showcase, and that is what I could really do with the ball in my hands. We broke down the steps one by one, building our way up, and through the first third of it, it wasn't the worst thing possible. I was moving a little bit, and as you can see right here, look at the finish. Look at the finish. Through some watching, learning, and a whole lot of coercing, here was the final product.
And now for the grand finale of this episode of Off the Bench.
Only been a few weeks, how can you be fine?
For today and for always, I've been Shane McDonald.
Not that bad.
And that's been this edition of Off the Bench.
Thank you and have a great day.
The University of Miami's most successful women's basketball coach has taken her skills off the court and into the classroom. After stepping down as a coach in 2024, Katie Meyer now teaches the course and administration of intercollegiate athletics. The course focuses on the current state of college sports, but instead of relying on a textbook, Meyer uses her years of first-hand experience to teach her students.
Well, it's hard. I remember when they said, okay, well, find a textbook, and I'm like, well, how could there be a textbook right now?
It's challenging to keep up with all the movement in college sports, but that's part of the draw for Meyer.
And to be teaching at this time where so much is changing and we have no idea where it's all going to end up, I'm glad I'm teaching because it's keeping me current too.
Whether discussing NIL, DEI, or analyzing bracket building, Meyer is as passionate about teaching as she was about coaching.
Like, I'm trying to open doors for you all that I've walked through that made my life awesome, and I just want to, and I did that with my players, and now I get to do it with my students.
UMTV, Shane McDonald.